everyone, and welcome to Meet the Expert. We do this every month. It's kindly sponsored by JobAdder, so thank you, JobAdder, for this, where we get the chance to bring experts on particular topics to share their information with you. I'm Angela Cripsey, MD of the Recruiting Gym, and I'm very proud to say that today I've got Denise Matthews of Elevate Careers. So hello, Denise.
Morning.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Looking forward to joining you today.
Well, we only met a little while ago, didn't we? It's been during this year, and as soon as I spoke to you, I thought, oh, we need to get you on our Meet the Expert because you've got such a wealth of knowledge. And actually, the topic today, moving beyond placements, building authentic relationships with clients and candidates, this has been a key part of your career. And I wanted to do the introduction, and actually we've got lots of information on here. So you've been in recruitment for the same time as me, 1989.
Yeah, I know. Scary, isn't it? It's gone so quickly.
That's the thing. I mean, this year is just like a couple of weeks. We're in December, but actually, the last 34 years have flown by as well, haven't they? So you were quite niche, though. I was a generalist working for Blue Arrow. You were very specific in your recruitment experience.
Yes. Yeah, I started in always in retail recruitment. A retail director invited me to go and join her setting up a recruitment business, and I was sort of her first employee. And so we started literally right from grassroots with no clients at all. So it was an interesting ride. She previously worked for another business for a couple of years, but I'd done absolutely nothing. She told me that recruitment was a really good career to have if you've got a family, because it was very flexible. And I discovered, it was 24/7.
I'm not quite sure I'd agree with that.
No, she didn't have a family.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, she didn't realise how it worked. So I've picked out a couple of highlights on there. Obviously, people can read them as well. But in recruitment, so you've been an owner, you were employed by companies, you've been a director, in-house agency. So you've been a bit of everything, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I just love it. I think recruitment is one of those, and people say to me, recruitment is sales. And yeah, of course it is, but any commercial environment you're involved in is sales. We've always got to put the money in the till. But for me, it's never been about sales as being the forefront. You get the sales by doing a fantastic job. And if you've got great clients and you can find them great candidates, I think just like you've just won the jackpot. And I love that feeling that, we get when you get that placement and that person, is going to stay, they're going to a great business and the business has got a great hire. It's like a seesaw, that's completely flat. You've actually matched the seesaw up and you've been that pivot in the middle of just making it all happen. Yeah, I love that buzz.
Yeah, I always saw myself as the middle person, brokering deals, making sure everyone's happy, that it's a win-win-win situation. So the fact that there's three people in this relationship makes it more difficult as well, doesn't it? In that sense. So you've got a level 7 coaching as well through Institute Management.
Yeah, we do that. So trained as a coach. Moved more into executive headhunting with senior leaders and MDs, that type of level, and just felt back in the early 2000s that we were headhunting people out of roles, and maybe they didn't get the position, and they were left floundering a bit. So started to do a little bit more support to help people through that, because after all, we'd unsettled them. They weren't unsettled before we knocked on their door. And then the other part was started to do some 90-day coaching as well. So when senior people went into appointments, and we actually made that part of our offer for quite a long time. I still do that if I do a senior placement. I stay there for 90 days because that's the rockiest time for people, isn't it, when they're going into a new job? So and that really as well builds the relationship, and you tend to stay around for quite a long time.
Well, that leads me to the last point on there around the decades-long client base, because that's today's discussion, isn't it? And having those relationships over a period of time. And recruitment is a career. It is something that you can do for the whole of your life. There's so much to it and so many variables. But building the relationships and keeping those relationships is critical. So why don't we dive into your talk today then, and you take it away.
Okay, let's do that. All right, so we always start, don't we, by thinking with recruitment, because I think it's sold as a sales role so often, is that almost we start with trying to look at what the end result is before we talk about the start of the journey. And I was actually talking to my own coach about this week, because a lot of what we do when you've been in recruitment a long time, I think, is innate. It's literally like driving a car. You get in, you turn the engine, and off you go. And you don't actually think about all the elements of the petrol and everything else you've had to put in to keep it going. But actually, when I started in recruitment, and it was an absolutely brand new agency, it was called Carver Consultants, and we were at #1 Harley Street. It was a wonderful address, and it was right in the heart, of course, of retail, because all the retail giants were around that area. And the person that owned it had been a retail director. So the very first thing she taught me was about networking. And prior to that, I'd been in retail myself. I'd been area manager, general manager in department stores, that type of thing. So really, I'd just gone to work each day and lived the day. But I did know people. And so I learned to network. And I think what I was taught at the beginning, and I've held on to it all the way through, is that you network to give back. You don't network to gain. And that's the piece, that's a really important piece of the jigsaw puzzle, I think, because too often people look at what networking can give them, and actual fact, it's what you can give networking as well. So I think that is one of the core elements that when I was planning this, that I thought about. And of course, I've highlighted two areas, which is candidates and referrals, because they're really our top pieces when we're thinking about connections. But obviously, good old LinkedIn, that's come along since you and I've been in recruitment. Let's face it, wasn't there when we began. We just had Rolodexes. And we didn't have things like this. And now we've got the podcasts and all of that. But we did have things like professional networks and things that we could go and join and tap into. And I did a lot of that. But I think one of the biggest things that we learn is that our candidates that we place and the candidates we don't place are really important. And so recruiters come under a lot of pressure at the moment for the fact that we're not looking after candidates, we're not getting back to candidates, we're all these things that recruiters have been accused of. I think a lot of it quite unfair, because candidates are applying for things that they shouldn't be applying for in some cases, and that's what causes the problem. But I think that if we get our candidates on side with us right from the beginning, so that they really feel valued, it's a really fantastic place to start in terms of building that relationship. So for me, I was taught, and I think there's probably some people on here that might have been taught in the same place as me, but I was taught that in the very first thing you do is that when you sit down with a candidate, is that you map everything out. You map that business out with them, and you find out about all the people that are in there. But also, in the same time, you're building that relationship with that candidate and really getting to know them. And so that is something that I've continued. And in actual fact, some of my greatest friends, and certainly some of my clients today, are candidates that I met in, McDonald's, hotel foyers, all those sorts of things, 25, 30 years ago. And I'm still in really close contact with 10 of them. And I think that's quite a big piece, it's quite a big number to have held on to. And of course, the other part that we all look for is our referrals. And if you get a referral, you know straight away that you are being shared, a relationship's being shared with you, and the authenticity is already there, because people don't refer you unless they really believe in you.
Well,
So
we noticed that with our business, that if we got referrals and candidates through referrals, that desk ran so much easier.
yeah,
Made it your life a lot easier, didn't it? Okay. Do you
yeah,
want me to
absolutely.
move on
Yeah,
to
let's go forward. Move on. Move on.
I am in control.
So, so I think when you read the books and all the learnings and everything about becoming, we're account managers, really, aren't we? That's sort of what we are. Is they often talk about, being the trusted, subject matter expert in the room. And I quite agree with that because I think we're the expert advisors in the room, and we probably start by the fact that that the expertise gets you chosen. So someone comes to you because they know that you are the expert, that you absolutely have those skills and experiences, or you've been referred for that. But actually, what they come for is that you get chosen. And I think as the advisor, as the person, when they think about, I'm really stuck here. And I said to you earlier on before we started talking, someone came to me last week and said, I am stuck on this assignment and I need some help, and I know you're the person to do it. And I haven't spoken to her for years. And yeah, I mean, that's a really lovely piece, but that's also good. She knows that because of, how I work. So I think the part about becoming becoming that trusted advisor is, we can flip on if you like, is to the next slide, probably helps that, I think. I got the right one, solving problems, is that we help them solve problems. And, I can remember sitting in the Disney store in Watford, like in 2001, and they were about to do the relocation to Hammersmith. And that was a big problem because what were they going to do with their people, and we weren't necessarily HR experts, but we knew who to talk to. We knew how to help them. We knew how to put a plan together. And so we offered value by listening to what they wanted and then helping them solve that problem. And from that, became a trusted advisor and worked with them for about 20 odd years after that. And on the solving problem piece, I've gone, listen. And I think that is what we've got to do. We've got to listen, use these ears. It's so easy, isn't it, to want to jump into the conversation when a client says, I want this, and this, and not actually really listen to what they're saying, because I'm sure you agree with this, Angela, but so often a client's asking you for something that is, totally, because you know that business so well, it's absolutely not what they need.
Well, that's the thing, because a lot of the time they won't know what they need. They just know what the problem is, and therefore they could end up directing you down a route where that's where your being a subject matter expert comes in, isn't it? Having knowledge of what you do to be able to say, let's just explore this for a minute and work through. And you're right, some of my biggest clients, I'm sitting here thinking it was a big problem that they had, and it was solving the problem that led to all of the work that we got and all of the positions, but it was talking about the problem first of all and trying to understand what was going on.
And I think a lot of recruiters come into their niche, their sectors, from inside industry, and so they are perfectly placed to help with that. But even so, by going out and researching and listening, I know sometimes we used to laugh in our office, one day when Tesco rang us and asked one of the girls to find a pizza taster. I mean, what a job to come into the office, a pizza taster. Well, where do you start to find one of those? And so it's amazing what clients will come to you with. And so that offering value will help, and having those credible, honest conversations and saying to them sometimes, no, that won't actually work for these reasons, perhaps not in quite that terminology, but you'll push back in a way to do that. And by listening, you will build, those outstanding relationships that are going to last for a long time. So I think you want to be front of mind. You want to be the first person they call. And how do you do that? You do that by keeping your promises and being authentic and being valuable. there's a really good book that I like by David Maister. I popped it on there. It's called The Trusted Advisor, and it's been in the circuit for 20 odd years. But actually, what he talks about still applies today, and you can flex it to your sector and industry, because I think we all accept as well that our different sectors, our different niches require a different approach. And, you know, I've run around London with a spare change of clothes in my bag as I've gone from the bank to Topshop or something like that, change the shoes, change the outfit, because I want to mirror what the organisation wants. And that way they also feel much safer with you and much more inclined to trust you.
Sounds so like me. I've got jackets in all different colours so that I'm their branding. And everyone walks in, they go, "Oh, there are colours." Yeah. It wasn't just like
there's a surprise.
Yeah, and I love it when I get a new client. I had one new client that was all teal, and I didn't have anything teal. So by the time I finished work with them for a year, I had about 3 or 4 things that were teal jacket, teal dress. It was brilliant. I love it.
That's my brand colour's teal. I love teal.
I know, exactly. Well, you've got it here, haven't you? It was that very similar to that colour there, and I was just like, oh yeah, no, I haven't got one of those jackets. Great. That'll be the next one then. Right. Okay. Moving on.
So let's talk about relationship mapping. So classic sales account management is to have that relationship map in place, and I still do this today. I think in times gone by it was a Rolodex, and I'm sure you had that whizzy thing on your desk that went round and round and round.
One client, one candidate.
Absolutely, and the front of each has the hot clients, the hot candidates right at the front. They're ready to go. But yes, when you sit down with that candidate and you talk to them about their business and their organisation that they work in at the moment, you're making notes all the time of what that's about, because you're learning with every interview. We are learning. We're learning about our sector, we're learning about businesses, we're learning about people. And so the relationship mapping piece is just so important. So researching the client before you get in there in all sorts of ways that you possibly can. If you can get hold of org charts, and of course, glorious LinkedIn. Where would we be if we didn't have LinkedIn these days? We can track people going in and out. We can build relationships. We can go into Recruiter. We can drop out of it. Really, I just think it's the most amazing tool, and I love the way it's softened in since the COVID years. It's softened a little bit. It's not so booted and suited.
Yeah, I mean, the softening, we're getting to know people more. A lot of the time they're still relating it to a work situation, but you're right, we're getting to see the insights of people, and that helps build the relationship as well, to understand them. We heard this morning, because it's LinkedIn week this week actually, on our daily workout, and we heard this morning that they've just gone over the 1 billion users.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. And yet, I did some work with an organisation, a CRM organisation on LinkedIn, and I was reading an article this morning, and 96% of people never post; they only lurk.
Oh, now they did have that stat as well. So it didn't say which was that they were doing, but the active users was over, like using it all every month all the time was over 350 million. So
absolutely, but love those commenting. So they're in there, they're watching, they're lurking, they're learning, they're reading the articles, but they're not actually getting into the posts and engaging. And that's our opportunity as recruiters, because that's how we open the doors and how people get to know us, how people know, because there's some quite radical things on there sometimes that people put out there, and I love to get inside those noisy conversations. Because the future got a viewpoint. And so I think that's where our opportunity is, from a relationship building point of view, is to get into that. So I think, and again, identifying the key stakeholders. How often have we seen an account fall over because you've just dealt with one person, and that one person's gone, and suddenly we haven't got them. So building your relationship map, however informal, whatever it is, do that and categorize the people in that map. And I think this is something I learned quite late on, really, because I made the mistake of building a great relationship with one person a couple of times, and then when they went, my account went. And yes, they took me where they went, but that wasn't the point.
Yeah.
So find the people. Have you got a budget holder in that account? Have you got a decision maker? Who are the line managers, and how much of decision are they making? Who are the users, the support functions, and who are the noisy people? Who are the people?
All the others I know, I talk about influencers, so they don't have a responsibility, but they'll say things that will actually. That's the noisy people, is it?
That's the noisy people. I just think they're noisy. Would they just please quieten down a bit? We're doing fine here, but actually, you've got to have them on side as well, and you've got to know who they are, and you've got to know what's important to them. And that's why, again, LinkedIn can be so useful, because you can look at those people and see what they're saying, see what they're doing, and you can, learn about them. So yeah, noisy people. Sorry, that's not as polite as yours, is it? The influencers.
But yeah, the influencers, and actually we called them that before there were influence on social media.
Oh, really?
25 years ago that we defined those key stakeholders. But it is a good point. But you're right, the noisy people, you want them being noisy in a positive way for you, not in a negative. So if they're there, then make sure that they're on your side, because otherwise, that can damn it straight away, can't it? It doesn't work. We seem to have a bit of an issue with Crowdcast, whether it's Crowdcast. I think it is, because it's not transferring to LinkedIn either. So tech-wise, we're good. It's all fine, and this is recorded. So if you are struggling, you'll be able to watch this on the catch-up. There's a couple of people, so I don't know if anyone else is saying, Charlotte, if you can say whether it's working okay for you or not. But tech has just not been my friend this week.
Oh, I know.
I'm trying to click the next button, and it's not doing anything now, so that's going to be interesting.
So it's not going on to the questions to ask.
Bear with me. It's is it going to move? Yay!
Yay! So there's a really great book. I popped it on the bottom here. It's called Power Questions, and it's by Sobel and Pennis, and I love Richard Sobel. I think he's a really, he's more in consultancy, but he's got some really great learnings out there. He's a good to follow. And I think all too often, again, I think sometimes it's the training that recruiters get in recruitment school of some of the agencies and the way they do it, but they've got these like really standard questions that they throw out. Tell me, what's your problems today? Well, the client's only just met you. He's not actually going to tell you what his problems are today, for goodness sake. What is that about? So I think it's much more about keeping the focus on what they want from you. Why have they agreed to see you? What was the hook that got them talking to you? And really be natural about the way you do that. And that's, I put avoid the yuck textbook questions, because, your 3 biggest priorities. Well, really?
Oh, no. Yes. The yuck ones where you just go, ugh.
Yeah. Well, what's that got to do with you? I've only just met you.
And that's the thing, isn't it? They're great questions. We're not saying don't ask them. We're just saying don't ask them right at the beginning before you've built a relationship, because the likelihood is, that it's going to put people off. One question that I always liked is, why now? Yeah. What's happening now that makes you want to have this conversation? Because usually they go, well, actually, it's not now, but it's in 3 months' time, and we're actually thinking about it. I love those ones even better. The ones that were a couple of weeks ago, we needed, let's catch up. But no, if they're planning ahead, brilliant.
And you do get those, don't you? When you've built that relationship, the client will bring you in to say, look, this is happening, and I've got a feeling that we might be going to need this, or what's the market like for this? And you think, oh, okay. And that's when you are bringing in your advisor piece about what is happening in the market, and you can help them. So you're absolutely right. It's natural. It's an extension of a relationship, not just someone they bring in when they want to buy something. And that's why I don't like transactional relationships. I'm not very good at them, actually. I'm much better when it's long term. So, and I think you want your client to be excited by what you're sharing with them, and feeling yeah, wow, that's kind of make a difference. Maybe excited, not always, but sometimes thinking, whoa, yeah, I get that. There is a way out of this. Okay. And I think having that personal connection with them, and so yeah, I'm a great one for building, a relationship over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine.
Mhm.
I think it's it's a great way to be, because you talk about something other than work. And sometimes, you find out things about the person you'd never find if you didn't do that, of just turning up at the office. And that's what we're all trying to get back to, isn't it, with this current scenario of moving past the COVID years, about actually getting out there and meeting people again and talking.
It's become a thing now, isn't it? It's like the Middle Ages. It's the COVID years. Wonder years. It's definitely become a term, and we all know exactly what we think. Do we think we're past it? Fingers crossed, anyway.
Yeah, I think it's, I know. But I think, the questions, just keep your focus and make sure that you're not going off track. So whilst you might be smiling and relaxed and being, really present in the room, keep refocusing on what you are wanting to get out of that conversation, because you've got in there with an agenda, haven't you? So, they've got one, but yeah, so have you. So that's really important that's there. So if
Definitely.
so from a summary point of view, I think getting to know the person and getting to know their values and the values of the organisation, and you don't have to be a best friend. I've been lucky that some of mine have ended up being that, but I always know that I've been seen as a valued advisor in the businesses I've enjoyed working in, and get them out of the office. Make them walk out at lunchtime to meet you or do something. I'm not a mad fan of turning up with the donuts and all of that. I'd much rather go and buy them a coffee and have them off site. Whatever works for you, that's what you should do. But personally, I think getting them out of the office and talking about some different things, and sometimes being vulnerable about yourself as well, because then if they can't get hold of you one day or there's a problem, they will understand. I've managed to do that myself and share some stuff, because I was running businesses while I was bringing up a young family with all the challenges that went with that. And I popped up a LinkedIn post yesterday because I've been a hybrid worker for 24 years yesterday, and my first office was an airing cupboard, a converted airing cupboard.
That's a new one.
And
The cupboards aren't that big. I understand the under the stairs Harry Potter. I've seen that a couple of times. And my new best, not my new best friend, my best friend just moved into a new house, and she's got a Harry Potter cupboard that's quite big. So she's going to do something with that. But airing cupboard, how do you get into an airing cupboard?
my husband just said it wasn't quite a walk-in, but it was a decent size at the top of the stairs. And when I sort of got the opportunity to do this, and we were walking around the house, and I said to my husband, I can't, the children were 3 and 6, and I'm like, it would be a nightmare. And so he said, well, there's that. And I went, it's a cupboard. He went, well, it's got shelves. We'll take the shelves out and whatever. And do you know what? It was a little haven. It really was absolutely brilliant. And that's how I started my hybrid working career. But also at that time, it was at a time when if the children were in the back of the car or came in, you were going, shh, shh. And now we're on calls to clients and candidates, and no one takes any notice. So it's really moved a long way.
I still get worried, I must admit, but you're right.
Yeah.
When we hear stuff in the background and things going on, it's like, well, yeah. And actually, it's no different from being in a really busy office where you can hear conversations going on elsewhere.
Exactly.
And things going on. I don't know why we put that high level. I think it was do you remember that BBC interview when it first happened and his little kids came into the background? And I think that was the tipping point, because all of a sudden we were like, this is real life, and if you work from home, that's what you deal with. But it was just so cute, and his wife diving in on the floor and trying to get them out. It was just comedy gold for a start. So if you haven't seen that, we'll try and find that link, because that's where it all started, where people were talking about, I could work from home, I could do this, but that's going to be what I'm going to have to deal with. Mine's dogs, so I must admit the dog's barking when someone turns up with a delivery.
as we've got a silent dog, but one of my clients has got 3 dogs, and coaching through that can be quite good fun. But yeah, so I think having that bit of vulnerability and, saying when you're available and not available, because I think as well, back in the early days, we were just always available. We were arkwrights, open all hours, the shop never shut. And that's what,
I'm seeing that more and more, that emails, the signature says works Monday to Wednesday, whereas we wouldn't necessarily have promoted that before. It would have redirected to someone else, they would have picked it up, but to actually be very open with, these are my work hours, you are not likely to get a reply outside of those.
Yeah, but I think that is all part of the relationship, isn't it? It's the transparency and the honesty, and makes them feel safe with you as well. It's a two-way street. And I think, I've said about listening, and I think, ask the questions, but really listen to those answers and be interested in both their personal and their business agenda. How many clients are your next client, your next candidate? How often does the client shut the door and say, I actually wanted to have a chat. I'm thinking of moving on. And you are so trusted that they know that they can come to you with that. So that is, again, a really good place to be.
Well, that tends to happen when you take them for the coffee, isn't it? They're not likely to say in the office in case anyone's overhearing, but take them out and all of a sudden you'll get an insight into their career and what they want, and whether, the real insight into what's going on in the company. So always good plan.
Yeah. So have a contact plan, stay focused all the time on that, on your map, on your contact plan, know they are, but just be genuine about it. And I think, when I asked people, that I've been working with why, and they just went, well, just because you're you, and we just always know what we're going to get. It doesn't change. It's the same always. And if there's tough love needed, they'll get it, but they'll also get everything they need to make it work.
Let's just talk about that tough love for a minute, because that is another key thing around building an authentic relationship, isn't it? It's not about always having the good news, because we're recruiters. We don't always have the good news. So what type of things would come under the tough love?
I think sometimes that's been around when they're restructuring, and where they're going with people and what they want to do, and the reality of how that will work. I mean, we've been involved in like complete projects beginning to end, of saying, right, let's evaluate every job, let's look at what the new structure is going to look like, how it's going to be. And sometimes the person at the top of the tree can be saying it's going to be like this. Well, actually it's not, because these are people with lives, and if it is going to be like that, then this is the right way to do it. And I think that sometimes, just wanting it done, and regardless, I personally, Andrew, I can't work in that way. I have to feel that everyone's had the best possible chance. I'm also sometimes the person that, when they want to make an offer, that I will actually say, are we really sure? And, these are the 3, this is the wild card, these are the 2 that shoe in, but let's go back and really think about it, and let's do, I'm sure you've got this, the big pad of mapping out, right, here are the fits, here are the, whatever it's going to be, or a disc profile, or whatever we're going to use. But I will actually help them, because I don't want to just make the placement. I want a long-term replacement, something that's going to stick and stay. And I will fight for salaries. I will absolutely fight for salaries, because I can't, I really don't agree with she was only on this here, so we're just going to pay her this.
Oh,
Katrina, I just can't buy into that.
Love you for that, and Joe Major and Joe Phillips. Loads of posts in the last few weeks around the salary issues that we've got at the moment, and asking, well, what were you on? Because it's not relevant, is it? It's what's relevant, right for that job.
No. And I think as well, particularly like the last 4 or 5 years, where businesses have held back, and I know quite a lot of people that, they forfeited salary. They chose to forfeit salary in those years. And now they deserve to be rewarded for the skills and experience and the benefit they bring to the organisation they're joining.
Yeah.
Everybody should join on a high. Joining on a, oh, okay, I'll take that. What's that about? They won't stay, they won't join, they won't give the verve. For me, that is, I am really, really passionate about it. I don't care what you're earning. I want to know what you would like to earn. And I sometimes might want you to justify why you think that's right for you.
Yeah.
And I'll also be really honest about the band. I'm not going to try and put somebody in that is, not going to get what they want without being honest with them at the beginning, because that's what this is all about. It's about transparent conversations, isn't it?
Definitely. So that contact plan then, stay focused, because we know in recruitment it's 10 jobs in one. So you can get so distracted by everything else. And what tends to happen, you do the stuff that you like, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, the other stuff off. So have you got any top tips on how to stay focused?
Yeah, I've worked for a couple of people along the way who've been absolutely amazing at that. And they've built it. It's been when I've working for the people more than working for myself. I've got to be really honest. And I've never worked for a business where the whiteboard ruled. I've worked for businesses where the whiteboard was there, but it was celebrated, as opposed to it wasn't the big stick that you were beaten with. And in two of those, we've had the power hour contacting, an hour of magic messaging, of thinking about, okay, who haven't I spoken to for a while? Who do I need to reconnect with? What articles have I read that would make it? What could I reach out with? And I think that for me, as they've been good advice, good hours. And you only need that power hour. Not to do it every day, because it's absolute killer. And it doesn't have to be an hour. It can be 15 minutes. But actually planning in your whatever you use to plan, that when you think of people, I've got a page of people that when I remember, I drop their names down and I just work through it. And last week, I was on a webinar piece last week, and I did 5 magic messages in one day and won a piece worth 20 grand at the end of it. And that was just a complete fluke.
No, you'd got it in there, you followed it up. That's the whole thing. People always say, oh, I was lucky. No, you made your own luck because you put yourself in that situation.
Yeah. And I think as well, also the whole piece about, I've just finished working on a contract that was, a 4-month contract. But I think also having in your mind, when you're coming to the end of something, how do I keep the doors open? What happens to that now? And having those contact points in the business. So in that client, I've got a scoop of about 6 or 7 people that I'm involved with, and now I'm going to be working them for another year. And that is, again, great fun for me, because I get right under the skin of what they're doing and where we're going, and I feel like part of the team. And I think if as recruiters we feel like part of the team, then the contact piece is so much easier to do. But I honestly firmly believe that power hours and magic messaging are really good practices, best practices, and just whack it into your planner a couple of times a week. It's so easy to fill the planner with something else, isn't it? But actually, don't let yourself stop it. Just hold yourself true to it. Yeah,
definitely. That's a great bit to finish on. So Denise, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
This will be downloaded and put into our Meet the Expert session. So if you want to click on the green button here in Crowdcast, that will take you through to our platform where there are already I think about 35 different sessions that we've got already, maybe even more than that, for Meet the Experts, of half an hour or so with wonderful people like Denise that share their information and give you great ideas to then take forwards and utilise in your recruitment life. Thank you, Denise, for joining us.
Thank you.
Pleasure. We'll be seeing you on Ask the Coach in a few weeks.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Wonderful. We'll get more insight from you there. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks. Bye now. Bye. Bye.